Hello friends, this is Lindsay Law with Youth Rising, a gathering place for families to talk about mental health. And this is the second portion of my interview with Janice McCullough, who is a sleep coach and an occupational therapist. There's some really great gems in this video, so watch the second installment and I hope you enjoy.
I mean, I know we've talked about a few habits that teens can build into their life to help get better sleep. Is there any other little tidbit or tip in terms of habits that we can quickly talk about?
So specifically, there's quite a few actually.
Okay.
And it really is finding what works for you. But specifically, I like to usually talk about taking daily pauses. So I like to envision a rain barrel, you know, the ones with the tap on the bottom and then the rain comes in the top. And if you envision that, you walk around your day with this rain barrel on your back and all your stress and anxiety and all of the stuff fills this rain barrel up. Well, if you go to bed with a full rain barrel, that's a really heavy rain barrel to carry while you're trying to sleep, right? You won't relax. It's heavy.
Yeah.
And the 15 minutes that you try to relax before bed might not be enough to empty that rain barrel, right? You need to open that cage for quite a while to let all that stress flow through. So what I like to recommend is every once in a while throughout your day, take that time to take that extra breath. Take that time to open the valve on the bottom of the rain barrel and let some of that stress out. It could be anything from putting on your favorite song, putting your earbuds in, and zoning out. It could be going for a walk. It could be petting your dog. It could be breathing, meditation.
Yeah, just even like 2 minutes of stretching or yoga, something like that. Yeah, that really brings in that idea of like mindfulness and building some mindfulness practice into your day. And I love that analogy though of the rain barrel. Like that really like makes you think, right?
Yeah, and how do I get when I'm carrying all this? And then if you do sleep, you're still holding on to, so you want to try to release all the stress you can.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen 100% of the time, but it's, on average, right?
Yeah.
And so, the mindfulness throughout the day. And I think a lot of times when you do read tips, we focus on that last half an hour before bed.
Right. But you got to do it all day. Okay. So I have to share one thing we've been doing in our house that I've been loving is I took all of our soap dispensers and I put like essential oils in them. And we just have like those foam soap dispensers. And so I've taught my kids that every time they go to wash their hands, they put on this smelly soap and then they just take a moment to, bring the soap up to their nose and just take a nice deep breath and then just like continually, and we can even talk even more about mindfully washing your hands, like focusing on the feel of the water and the sound of the water. And the thing is that the nice thing about that is it's something you do all day, right? You go to the bathroom a few times a day or you're working in the kitchen, you're going to be washing your hands. Mm-hmm. And so just taking that activity that you're already doing and turning it into a mindfulness practice has it like built in already so that it's not something like you're adding to your life, because I mean, we just get overwhelmed with all the things, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm hoping that will help my kids just build it right into their day.
I love that. I love that idea. And if you don't mind, I might borrow that idea.
Please share it with the world.
I love that because it does. How many times do you wash your hands? And if you don't do it every time, you could do it, say 10 times. That's 10 times where you're able to just pause and kind of relax a little bit, release some of that stress, be in the moment.
And I love that. Like I would have never connected that to sleeping, but like the way you're talking about that, it's like, okay, if I take those moments to be mindful when I'm washing my hands, take a deep breath, then by the time I'm ready to go to bed, I am going to feel more relaxed and ready to sleep.
Yeah. And I love how you're doing it with the washing the hands, which I didn't even think to add it in there. I usually talk about how we usually, while we're eating, we multitask. When was the last time we sat and actually really were mindful of how that orange feels as we're peeling it, like how it smells and how it feels. And so that's where I usually go with it is you're going to eat sometime in the day anyways, taking a moment to eat a meal without multitasking.
Totally.
enjoying the meal or the snack.
I love that. I love that because we have to take times where we're already doing something and build it into being a mindful activity, because we just, it's just way more likely to happen if we're building it into something we're already doing. So between washing our hands and eating, we're going to have like 10 opportunities to be mindful all day.
There you go.
Awesome.
We sleep really well and we'll have better mental health for it, I think.
Exactly. And it's so simple.
It really is. And I think we just rush a lot, right?
Yeah.
And taking that opportunity to just slow down. Sleep is accumulation of things that happen throughout the day. It's not a factor separate onto itself. It's really
I love that.
The building up to it.
That's, so say that one more time for me, because that's so good.
I'll have to remember. Sleep is an accumulation of factor of everything throughout the day. So it's something you build up to versus just an independent factor onto itself.
Yeah, that's like mind-blowing.
It really is. And I think we don't connect that, right? How we live impacts how we sleep and vice versa.
Yeah.
And another tip that I would generally, when I'm working with teens, is really looking at things that they love to do. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times we're on our phones, but what gives you peace? What are you like? And so for me, when I think about, I was a bookworm. So for me, it was books. And now I like to craft, so it's crafting. But some teens like to color. Some teens like to listen to music. And so those are all things that I would incorporate into your sleep routine. So when you're preparing for bed, when you're turning that cell phone off or the tablet off, what else can you do? You don't want to just sit there twiddling your thumbs, right? So what do you enjoy doing? And getting back to that. So if you really enjoy playing guitar or listening to music, focusing on that. The one thing with music is it's funny because we often try to match music to how we're feeling.
Right? Okay.
So if we're feeling angry, we'll play music that might promote some of the,
little Led Zeppelin. I don't know. I don't even listen to that.
I don't either, but somebody does. But really focusing on maybe having songs that are more relaxing.
Yeah.
Right. And so trying to have a playlist that you've picked out in advance that you find relaxing versus something that matches your mood. Because we do have a tendency to pick that heavier, that maybe, I don't want to say angrier music, but that music that kind of promotes that.
Well, that makes you want to dance, right? Like that's just not helpful when you're trying to settle down and go to sleep. It's not a dance party.
Exactly. And enjoy it. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, because for me to say, oh, you should, draw or read, or it's not helpful if you don't enjoy it.
Right. So do something you enjoy.
Exactly. And that's going to be different than what your friends do. And that's okay. As long as it's relaxing to you and it's something that gives you peace and happiness and allows you to release some of that stress in that moment right before bed.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. So moving on, can we talk a little bit about what are the effects of compounding lack of sleep over time?
Oh, I love this one. So sleep is truly, I think, the underpinning of all health. So what we know about sleep is that we've talked a little bit already about how you're more prone to having lower moods. You're more prone to having anxious moods or anxious thoughts. You have difficulty concentrating. You have difficulty problem solving. And the one thing I want to speak to is about executive functioning. So executive functioning is that the frontal lobe of your brain that helps you make those, problem solving, decision making, all of those higher brain functioning.
The thinking brain. We kind of like to call it the thinking brain or the wizard brain.
The wise brain, some people. Yeah. So executive function skills are a consumable resource. We don't have an endless supply of it. So as we sleep, we build up our executive functioning skills. And throughout the day, our executive functioning skills weaken. And so that's why we make decisions when later of the day, if we don't have a set plan to do something, we might not. So if you're like, I want to work out every day, I have this race I want to train for, or I'm on the basketball team and I really want to practice, but you don't set a plan to do that, it's why you're less likely to do it. Because at that point, your executive functioning, your decision-making brain is not able to function, right? Because you've made so many decisions coming up to that point at 4 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the day.
Well, and that kind of like speaks to like, I noticed that a lot of my best ideas are in the morning when my brain is fresh, right? And I mean, that even kind of goes back to like trying to study late at night, like your brain is not functioning at its highest level. So you're going to be way less efficient.
Yeah. And so what we see is with the problems with concentration and attention, we see more risk-taking behaviors and things like that as well, or making less healthy choices. So you're more likely to grab that bag of chips than the bag of carrots. You're more likely to, right? So
the lizard brain is in the driver's seat.
Yeah, exactly. And I should say that when we're talking about compounding sleep, I'm talking about even an hour, like 7 hours of sleep at night, 6 hours of sleep at night. So there's research that actually shows that if you do 6 hours of sleep a night for a period of 5 days, you're almost functioning like you're impaired.
Wow.
So it's not like if I'm only getting 4 hours of sleep, I don't have to worry about it. I'm getting 6. No, it's really not that hard to get into this impairment state. And so from a safety perspective for people, car accidents are actually prone as well from a health perspective. So 1 in 10 accidents can be attributed to lack of sleep. And over 50% of those are for teens from 16 to 24.
Oh, wow. So sleep is really important. Right? I mean, it's going to save your life. Right?
Exactly. And what we don't know is, so I talk about immune system, and so sometimes it's hard to really picture that, but acne has actually been attributed to poorer sleep.
Okay, girls, listen to that. You want to get rid of your acne? Get better sleep.
I wish somebody would have told me that as a teen.
Right.
And weight gain is attributed to poor sleep and pre-diabetes. So if you're getting 6 hours sleep a night, you're more likely to test as a pre-diabetic, which means that your body isn't able to metabolize the sugars in its system as well. And so when I'm working with people and they're saying, well, sometimes weight comes up, that's something I talk about, is getting proper sleep will help you keep a healthy weight.
That's very interesting.
It's amazing to me how much it actually, even, I remember as a teen, having friends that always had like the dark circles under their eyes, or like, and that is also something that you're more prone to with, no, there's other factors. But
dietary. Yeah,
exactly. So risk of heart disease, risk of diabetes, even athletic performance. So it's been known for athletes that are in high level, especially when they're competing for like the Grey Cup or Stanley Cup, where their coaches actually mandate a certain amount of sleep.
Yes, I've heard of like people in the military as well. Like they have to have a certain amount of sleep so they can be on a certain project or whatever, which totally makes sense after talking about all this.
Yeah, and so it's and that's because of all of these health impacts, and they're long-standing, right? So, and it's hard to say, okay, if you get this much sleep, you're gonna not have heart disease, but we do know it's a contributing factor, and we know that if we can take care of our sleep, a lot of these other factors take care of itself.
Yeah, and when you kind of think about all of these impacts that sleep has, like it kind of makes that, it's just that one more movie you want to watch, or I want to stay up and like scroll on my Instagram, or like it makes that seem so less important, right? When you consider the impact of the sleep over time, especially.
Exactly. And you also get you get into those habits that are harder to break over time. So not only are you kind of impacting your health in these different ways, but you're also changing that circadian rhythm, right? You're changing how your body reacts, especially as a teenager, because this is when you're sort of setting that foundation, and that circadian rhythm is really making changes. So it's a lot more important, I guess.
Yeah.
And some people, it's even, so sometimes people can say, well, I fall asleep fine without a routine, and that's okay for some people. And right, some people are more sensitive to that.
Right.
And so just acknowledging for yourself that I might be more sensitive to my cell phone than my friend is. And so my rule might be 9, or my rule might be, a little bit earlier than 10.
Well, yeah. And even just like as parents, like connecting with our kids and like having an honest discussion of like, how much sleep like do you think you need, and how can I support you in keeping a routine so that you are functioning at your highest level. So, because I mean, we all need to work together, because I need help too. So,
well, yeah. And we know that from a parent, so for parents, if there's any parents watching, we know that sleep is a family, kind of a family issue. So what I mean by that is your opinions and your beliefs about sleep actually also impact your child's opinions and beliefs about sleep. And so when you're trying to work and help your teen sleep better, it's often really important to also look at your own sleep, because that modeling piece really has impact, and that those core
so
beliefs,
huge.
I think that we're kind of passing on those core beliefs about, well, I'm going to binge watch this show. Our kids see that, and so if we're asking them not to binge watch, we also have to look at our own.
Okay, I love that you brought that up, Janice, because like I feel so strongly about that, especially when it comes to like self-care and mental health, right? Like we can't tell our kids, oh, it's super important to exercise for your mental health if we're not also doing it. It's super important to write in your journal. It's super important to do all of these things that are going to support your mental health. Like we need to start with ourselves and be that model to our kids.
I agree 100%. And I think really like those beliefs about sleep really impact the way we sleep. And
Yes.
so, and those beliefs going into sleep. So some people, if they've had struggles sleeping, they'll go to bed thinking, I'm never going to get to bed.
Right.
I'm never going to sleep.
I know. And this opens up a whole nother, like, what are our thoughts around sleep? And like, then the emotions. Oh yeah. Like, oh yeah, we could do a whole video just on that.
Well, let me there's a CBTI, it's called.
Okay.
So CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
So there is a research evidence-based therapy. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And some research shows that it's even better to help people sleep than medications would. Of course, if you're working with it and you're talking to a counselor or doing your own CBT work. And it addresses the whole belief system around sleep, because we have a lot of beliefs in our society, right? It's very popular to tell your friend, I didn't get any sleep last night. And it becomes this like value, right? Of how strong or how.
Right. It's like you're cool if you can function on less sleep. But like, let's really examine that and see what it's doing for us, because not so cool later when you're like struggling with your mental health and other, physical health concerns.
Exactly. And we've become that society that really, oh, well, you stayed up this late, or I worked this hard, and I missed sleep because I did it. And it becomes that value added of how dedicated you are to something, right? But really what happens is you're actually hindering your performance in whatever it is that you're practicing.
Right. So it's kind of like buying into that hustle culture, right? Like, oh, the busier I am, the better I am, or the more I do and the less sleep I get, like the stronger I am, which is not true.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining in. Subscribe to my channel if you're enjoying these videos. I've got a few more interviews lined up. And also share this with a friend who may be interested in some help with their teen and sleep. Have an awesome day.